You're listening to Let's Stay Together Anime Break, the sub-series where we talk about the 2019 anime Fruits Basket. I'm Ellen.
And I'm Kayla.
And today we're talking about episode 6 of the anime. Not episode 5, not episode 7, but episode 6. Because last time I couldn't remember numbers. But, just to be clear, that's what we're talking about.
And you couldn't remember who Shigure was?
No, I couldn't. But now I know. He's the scary guy from the end of episode 6, didn't you see? So we're gonna that guy. We're gonna do our
I hate that guy.
Yeah, I love to hate that guy. More like
he's a great guy to hate.
He's a great guy to hate. We're gonna talk. We're gonna do a summary, spoiler free, then our discussion, then spoilery discussion. Because spoilers are fun to talk about. So in another kind of like interesting combination of pieces of different chapters, this episode has chapter 7, the like leftover piece of chapter 8 that we didn't talk about before, or that wasn't covered before, and chapter 9 of the manga. So we got two kind of like big ones and a little small piece from chapter 8, which was
kind of like 8 and 9 and then 7.
Yeah, basically. It was kind of a lot. I actually watched it the first time and I was like, wow, that was like bold to cram so much in one episode, but it worked. I think it worked out well. It had like the essentials of everything, including some like specific dialogue lines that I really like that were included but not overdone. Like for example, in the old, I don't know, whatever. I guess I should get into the summary. But in the first anime, there's like a whole episode where Hana and Uo come over, but you really only need like half an episode. Like I think it was actually like very exaggerated in that take on it, and it was all like comedic relief. In this case, it just like gets to the point.
Yeah, I think the first anime like had a lot of like comedic filler.
Yeah, it did, and that was
which was funny,
but not in the spirit of the work. I think overall.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's still got some funny moments that they kept, which was nice. So we start the episode with the culture festival in full swing, and the class's onigiri stand is doing quite well, partially thanks to Tohru's adorable cat onigiri. Even if eating them makes Kyo cannibal. But
in the dub he just goes this feels wrong, which is funny.
I want to know what he says exactly in the dialogue, but he's like, am I a cannibal or something?
I watched both this time.
Oh good, I didn't watch the dub, so well actually I watched it for part of it to check something and I can't remember, but I'm sure it'll be listed here when I get there in my notes. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pleased in the dub the way they pronounce people's names, even though I clearly don't put any effort into pronouncing them like the correct way when we do this podcast, but
it's just ingrained in us to pronounce them that way because that's how we
it's like when
heard them and talked about them the whole time.
For sure. It's also like when people say
also
like,
just more natural to
we're speaking English.
English talking. Yeah.
It's like when people say
we know the correct pronunciations. We can say them that way if we want to. It just doesn't feel right when you're talking.
I don't want to sound like overly intellectual. It's like when people say like karate instead of karate. It's like, just say karate. That's what we say. It's fine. It's an adaptation. Like think of all the things that people like. It's like Japanese it's not like they pronounce English words exactly correctly. They adapt them to the way that is phonetically appropriate for Japanese. This is the same way. Just the reverse way. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, but I do appreciate the dub going to the effort.
I do.
We're just not going to for standard discussion.
Indeed. I appreciate the directorial efforts to get people to pronounce things appropriately. I think it's like a nice, I don't know. It's respectful of the work, which is nice.
It shows a love of the source material on the part of the creators.
Yes.
The dub.
Which is nice. Anyway, Tohru's beautiful onigiri may not be the main attraction because we pan over to Yuki, who's wearing the world's pinkest, frilliest dress, surrounded by screaming girls, all with their phones out.
It's incredibly pink in the anime.
It's so pink. Pretty sure the sweater was like white before, and now it's like just like pastel pink.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the theme song, so enjoy that in your head for a second. And then speaking of outfits, I love since we're in the theme song break in our heads, I love their onigiri stand outfits and their logos.
Yeah, they're so cute.
They're adorable. I was like Googling.
I want a t-shirt that has that
onigiri.
On it.
I can make it happen if we really want. But they're like, they're so nice. I already Googled it to see if someone already made one, and I haven't seen one yet. I could go for like an onigiri apron. I think they're pretty cute. Does Cafe Press still exist? Let's make it happen. I was also just like...
What is it, like Redbubble now?
Oh, I don't know, actually.
I don't know.
And then when I saw the, I mean, of course I posted about this, so everyone's probably seen it already, but like when I saw it the first time, I was like, did I just predict the future? Like, I don't know. or that's how everyone thinks about onigiri, in our collective subconscious or whatever, but it's fine. Anyway, I thought it was funny.
Sonic ideal of onigiri.
Yeah, exactly. It's the archetypical, is that a word?
Yeah.
It's the onigiri archetype.
Yes.
So that was great. And then also Hana is wearing her witch outfit, but she didn't do any fortune telling. So like if you haven't read the manga and you're listening to these episodes, there's one panel that we talked about for like 5 minutes, which is like a teeny tiny panel of Hana. She's in her like witchy outfit, which is like what she's wearing in this episode, but she's using these little like rods to like do fortune telling or dowsing or something, and like it's just one little thing that's in the background. So in this case it seemed kind of weird, like it's accurate to the story and her character, but she didn't do any fortune telling, so I felt like maybe that would be like people wouldn't make that connection or something. So if you're wondering why she's wearing a witch outfit, it's not, I mean, it's kind of her deal, but also she was fortune telling it was part of her shtick in the manga.
Yeah. Also, if you haven't listened to our manga discussion there, do yourself a favor and Google parrot fortune telling.
I forgot about that. Every time you bring it up, I forget that I did this to you. Yeah, you should definitely Google parrot fortune telling. We also talked about that. It was important. Or you should just go back and listen to our episode. If you want to listen to that episode, you can listen to episode 5, which is called Who You Are on the Inside and Outside. So we cut back in from the theme song to the sound of kawaii and much camera snapping as the girls have surrounded Yuki and they're all taking photos of him. And a girl with long dark hair and bows jumps in and tells people not to take photos without permission because Yuki clearly doesn't like it. He's clearly enjoying the dress, but he clearly doesn't enjoy having photos taken of him. I believe
that's our leader of the Yuki fan club.
It is. They haven't been introduced yet, though, so I'm going to probably cut that. I just said that. Oh, they have?
Yeah.
Okay.
In like the second episode.
Did they get names?
I don't know if they got names, but they were introduced as the Yuki fan club, at least to some degree.
It's funny because like
maybe seen that character before.
Okay, good. Like in the part of the manga we're reading, they still haven't really been a huge presence. Some of the girls have, but not necessarily the one with long hair.
I don't remember if they had the names in the anime, but I remember them showing up to sass Tohru.
Oh, they're the ones who sass her in the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand.
But yeah, I made a note because it's not.
I thought this was when they showed up.
It's not her in this version of the manga.
Yeah.
The manga version of this story, rather. It's just a random classmate.
Yeah, it's like one of the Prince Yuki fangirls. It's just a different one with short hair. Mm-hmm. The long-haired one doesn't show up for a while. Anyway, whatever. So the girls, getting back to the anime, the girls from who sassed Tohru the first time, they're standing in front of Yuki saying that he clearly doesn't like it. And they kind of like wave their arms up and down, which I thought was really funny to like prevent people from taking photos, I guess. And we also see a flashback of a gaggle of upperclassmen girls asking Yuki to wear the dress at the festival. So I think this is an interesting and like really convenient kind of compression of the story where like I think in the end of one chapter of the manga, they all come in, they're like, can you wear this? And then in the next chapter, he's wearing it. It's like we just get the flashback instead, which is nice.
Yeah.
Saves us a little time. We see some narration from Tohru that boys, girls, and even some teachers have turned up to gawk at Yuki. And Tohru and Yuki make eye contact, and Yuki kind of turns away. And Tohru wonders if she's made him angry. I think she says that out loud because Kyo was like, just ignore him. He has a complex about his pretty face. And Tohru was like, how can I fix this? I've been thinking that he's cute. And Uo was like, don't worry. And Kyo was like, he kind of looks like a girl. Or whatever. He looks like a girl. I can't remember exactly what he says. Then, the blonde kid from a couple episodes ago that we saw kissing Tohru mysteriously in the office building, like, jump tackles / hugs Yuki from behind. Tohru recognizes him, and Kyo does too, and Tohru asks if she knows him. A man appears through the door, leaving a wake of blushing girls behind him. I thought it was kind of funny how they show, like, a close-up of his shoes, and then, like, it moves up to him. It's like, just have him talk from outside of the room. It was really weird. It was funny. It's like they went to the effort of, like, drawing him like school slippers, which is really funny. But whatever. He calls for Momiji, and Yuki looks quite concerned. But Momiji responds happily and calls him Hari. In my the subtitles, it said Harry.
Yeah.
Did yours say that?
Yeah.
was like, he's
But
not
also
Harry.
in the dub, it's cute. He goes, "Sorry, Hari."
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
In the dub, Momiji has a German accent I've written in all caps in
he
my
does.
notes. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah,
Someone
he
went to
does. I
extreme
like it. I
effort.
wasn't sure at
I
first
like
when
it.
for like the brief scene when he showed up earlier, but
Hmm.
I like it as he's
I
more
guess
present.
I guess I didn't watch that one in the dub.
Mhm.
And I heard him say sorry, Hari, and I thought it sounded kind of weird, and I was like, meh, whatever. And then I started watching it, and I was like, oh, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was pretty great. I actually liked it a lot.
yeah.
It was good. And he also tried to listen really hard to what he says in Japanese, and it doesn't sound like he has an accent in Japanese either. But it's,
But he does say things in
Oh
German,
yeah, he
which he did
does.
in the first anime, so that's nice.
Yes, the spirit is kept, which is nice. There's
Yeah.
some effort there too. So Momiji hops down and introduces himself and Hatori, and we learn that they're relatives of Kyo and Yuki. Tohru confirms all this with Kyo, who looks a little bit concerned like Yuki did. Hatori asks when Yuki turned into a girl, and Yuki says Hatori has seen him naked enough times to know better. And then all the girls, well, at least like the ones who were animated are the four girls who were kind of like freaking out and standing in front of Yuki. Freak out! And then, of course, Yuki explains it's because Hatori is his doctor, and Hatori whips out his stethoscope and listens to his breath. And
Takes it out very dramatically.
he does, yeah. It's like when Hana played the cards, played the
Yeah.
Reverse Revolution. Yuki, he explains that he's here because Yuki has breathing problems or had breathing problems when he was younger, and he didn't come for his checkup. And they're getting better, but he didn't come for his checkup. And Yuki looks kind of grumpy about Hatori saying this. And Tohru has come over, and Hatori asks her if she's Tohru Honda. And she says that she is, and he says that she really is a normal girl. Then Momiji causes a fuss by climbing up on the stand, so Kyo and Tohru try to get him down. Meanwhile, Yuki asks Hatori why they came. Hatori says that Momiji brought a flyer to Akito, who wanted to come, but Hatori vetoed it, and he was told to come instead. Hatori tells Yuki to relax. He didn't come here to do anything to Tohru. And also says that the threatening look that Yuki's giving him isn't that effective in that outfit. And Yuki tells him to mind his own business, which was the same phrase that we talked about in the, in the podcast episode we recorded where he says, like, oh, thank you so much, or whatever.
Mhm.
What did he say in the dub? Do you remember?
I can't remember. It was slightly different, but
Yeah.
it was something like, "I don't need your opinion" or whatever.
Yeah. There's I think there's just it's like a set phrase, so there's multiple ways to translate it. But I think the one
Yeah.
in the original like Tokyo Pop translation, it just says like thanks, which is probably like the nicest, I think. I don't know, it's the most direct and the most sassy. It's like mind your own business is kind of like sassy enough, but then like anyway, whatever, it's fine. I'm overanalyzing it, which is kind of the situation on this podcast. Yeah. Kyo drags Momiji off of the stand and behind the curtain, and Tohru follows. And then
I like the animation for that too.
He's like
holding
carrying
Momiji
him.
in, like, one hand.
Yeah, and Momiji's like holding up his legs. Like, it's really funny.
Yeah.
It was really like weird but funny. I also liked that. Uo and Hana have a little moment where they say they think something's up with Tohru. She's too friendly with Yuki and Kyo, or she calls them the prince and carrots, I think, right?
Yeah.
And Hana says her ways are different. And I also thought it was funny how in the subtitles they call them carrots, but she doesn't call them carrots. She like calls them like orange head. So it's like, didn't she used to call him orangey in the translation before?
I think so.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway, behind the curtain, Kyo is scolding Momiji. Momiji says he came to see Tohru and confirms that they met at the office building where his dad is the CEO. And of course, Tohru is shocked. Momiji confirms that Tohru knows the curse. And then he hugs her and poofs into an adorable bunny. He's so cute. So good. Their animal forms are also nice in the anime. Like, it's just so much nicer.
Super cute. Yeah.
Yeah. And he looks
So I noticed in the subtitle it used the word glomp
really?
instead of hug.
Nice.
But it didn't use glomp in the dub, so I don't know. I don't think they actually said the word glomp in the Japanese.
I don't know. I don't think there was like a word or anything, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I just noticed that. I was like, huh.
That's funny. Of course, everyone notices the poof, and so they come around the screen. They're like, it's weird. His clothes are there. Where'd the kid go? But fortunately, Yuki distracts them by saying how weird it must be. A boy in a dress. And of course, with his weaponized shoto sparkles, everyone in the class turns their attention to him and starts like complimenting him and whatever. And they get his attention. He gets their attention back. Tohru is able to then make an escape in the background, carrying Momiji Bun Bun Momiji to the roof. On the roof, Hatori and Kyo scold Momiji, and they're like, oh, you got lucky. Hatori says it's a good thing that Yuki distracted the students, and Kyo is like, yeah, for all he complains, I guess he likes his girly, but then he's cut off by Yuki kicking him into the sky in stick figure form.
I like that they kept the stick figures.
Yeah, it was great. Hatori suddenly remembers something important that he must do after Kyo lands and sasses Yuki or whatever. He has Kyo and Yuki line up, and he asks them to say the first thing that comes to mind. Macaroni and cheese, they both say as he snaps a photo for Aikido. And I feel like if they took a photo like that, they must look really confused, which is awesome. Also, it's the same joke in Japanese as it was before, but he asked what's 1 + 1, and they say 2, which is ni. So if you were curious,
I think the manga translated as like what's 1 + 2, so it's 3.
Yeah,
it's the same effect, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
the different ways they've chosen to do it.
Yeah, I was like macaroni and cheese. That's kind of weird. Also, no, he should have just said say cheese, and they would have been like cheese. Anyway, whatever, it's fine. I guess he wants to catch them off guard.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hatori bounces with Momiji and Kyo. I feel like when Hatori makes an exit, it's bouncing.
Momiji definitely bounces.
Yeah, definitely. And Kyo runs off to try to take the camera back, so Yuki and Tohru are left on the roof. Yuki, meanwhile, worries what Aikido will think of him in the dress, and Tohru tries to console him, saying that everybody loved it. Yuki said that boys don't like being called cute, and that he didn't want her to see him looking pathetic. And she's like, I'm sorry, I also thought you were cute. Like, I'm guilty of thinking that you were cute, too. She tells him that her mom used to call her cute, and that it was one of the ways in which she's expressed her love for Tohru. She thinks they're words that she won't get to hear again, and she tries to explain that the kids, when they say it, they probably mean that they like him. And then she's like, maybe I'm not helping. But Yuki says that when Tohru says it, it kind of helps him feel better. And he'll wear the dress for a bit longer for fan service for the seniors or whatever it said. But he needs help untangling it from his hair first. So Tohru kneels down to help him. It says it looks complicated to put on. And he says that it would look good on her, though. And she's like, nah, it's for a princess. That's my interpretation of what she said. I can't remember what she said. Yuki says, I know that it would look cuter on you than on me. Much cuter. And then he casually thanks her and starts to head back to class. And meanwhile, Tohru is still on the ground freaking out like, he said I'm cute. My heart is going to explode or whatever. In the hall again, after she calms down a little bit, Yuki warns her not to be alone with Hatori, because he was the one who erased the memories of his friends when he was little. And then at that moment, Uo and Hana pop up in the hallway, which is different than this is the part that's a little bit different. This is like one of the parts that's combined together, so they wove these two stories together.
Mm-hmm.
So Uo and Hana pop up. And Yuki they're like, oh, we want to talk to Tohru, I guess, or something. So Yuki heads back to class and leaves them to talk to her. They ask Tohru if she's hiding something about the prince from them. Maybe like dating him. And Tohru's like, it's not like that, I'm living with them. And Uo's mouth like hangs open in shock, and Hana's like, could you explain that or something? It was really funny. I don't know what they said in the dub, that was in the sub. It's funny.
Just something like, I'll need you to explain.
Yeah, basically that was the tone, right? So we cut to outside on the roof again, and we see some kids like cleaning up from the festival in the background. And Tohru explains everything to her friends, and of course they're surprised, but now they understand. So they decide to invite themselves over for a sleepover, of course. It's the only thing to do. But they have to make sure that they leave enough time for the Sohmas to prepare snacks, so they decide to come over later in the evening and sleep over. We cut to later that night, so the pace is like really, really fast. Later that night, Uo and Hana arrive, and Tohru apologizes again for like, I don't know, inconveniencing them. And Kyo and Yuki are like, are you sure this is a good idea? And Shigure is like, que sera, sera, his famous line. Dog, they hear, and then panic. But it turns out that just a rando adorable like Shiba dog has showed up, and everything is fine.
Also, there's this like weird like muffled club music.
Is there really?
Scene. It's really bizarre when it started playing in that scene. I was like, what is going on? It's a really strange music choice.
It's like the little like wood flute music, and then it transitions into this like weird like muffled club music. That's a good way to describe it. That's so funny. Nice.
Yeah, I was saying I don't notice the music that much, but I noticed that.
I guess it's supposed to be like dramatic music. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what the equivalent would have been.
Are they having a party? Or...
That's their like background ambient music for like when they have friends over. Like Shigure and Kyo and Yuki never have people over, so they don't know what to do. So it's like put on music, and it's just like some random like drone.
Some like burn CD from 2005. This is like banging tunes for gets.
Do 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 over and over, over and over again. All right. Anyway, yeah, I didn't notice that. So then so they say dog, and there's a little cute dog, and Shigure's like, you can't be here, ha ha ha. And then the scene looks back at Yuki and Kyo is like panting with his hand on his chest, and Yuki's like holding his head in relief or whatever. And then we quickly cut to the table, where we and Tohru learn that Shigure is a novelist. And he shows one of his books, which is like a smutty one, and everyone like freaks out briefly. I feel like that scene was like really, really, like they really cut it really short to understand that that's all what's happening. But Hana picks it up, of course, immediately. And Tohru is impressed that Shigure is a writer. Tohru has an idea, and so she takes off, and Shigure leaves to go out as well. So that leaves Uo, Hana, Yuki, and Kyo at the table alone. So while Tohru is gone, Uo says it looks like Tohru is fitting in well. We see a memory of Uo, Hana, and Tohru at her mother's grave. Uo says that she and Hana swore to help her, which might sound a bit dramatic to Yuki and Kyo, but Tohru was their first friend, so she hates that she couldn't help her this time. She feels like Tohru can't count on them for anything, and she wonders, is it even worth her being friends with them? Yuki says, at least that's how it is in the subtitles, like the context is a little bit whatever. Yuki says she's not the kind of girl to worry about that kind of stuff, and Kyo says that she is not the type to ask for the moon. And Hana looks up from her smutty book, Shigure's smutty book that she's been reading, realization on her face. And at that moment, Tohru comes back to play with cards, to play Daihin Min, of course. And Uo and Kyo get ready to play by arguing immediately, and Tohru asks Yuki to cut the deck. We cut to a darkened room in a traditional-looking house and an oil lamp burning to light the room, which I thought was really dramatic. And I don't think we've ever, even in the manga, I don't think there's like candles or junk or like lamps that light the main house. Like, I'm not sure.
Yeah. I remember for that scene in particular, it's like the panels are really tight focused, so you don't see much of the room.
No.
You mostly see Akito's face and Shigure's face.
I think it's also kind of like, it's not necessarily shown that it's like nighttime or whatever. Like, it's just, it's lit like normal, I guess. It's probably hard to show lighting in a manga, but
yeah.
But yeah, in this we get some really dramatic lighting from this like single oil lamp in the room, and you can see Akito in the distance. Akito's been introduced briefly, I think, so we can safely say that it's Akito. Like we saw Shigure talking to Akito in episode 2 or something when he's asking for permission for Tohru to stay there, essentially. So we can tell that it's Akito.
Yeah.
So we see Shigure lets himself in, and he's like already talking when he's like opening the door. So he says that Yuki and Kyo are becoming happier since Tohru started living with them. And Akito is out of luck because Tohru is a way better person than he is. And Akito responds saying, I already know that I always ask for the moon. And we see Shigure kind of illuminated, creepily illuminated by the whatever oil lamp with a sly grin. We cut back to Shigure's house where it's bedtime, to a much nicer time, away from the creepy room. Uo says her throat hurts from yelling, and Tohru says that she was the poor man today. And then I think Hana comments on her bed and how big it is, which blows my mind every time I see it. It's like a king-size bed. Like, what the hell? Kyo is shown from the hallway, and he overhears their conversation. So Uo asks about this hat that we've been seeing very prominently featured. There was a really funny thing on like I think I saw in the Discord or on Tumblr where someone was like, that hat's a main character. And it was really good. Like, what's up with that hat? So yeah, we see the hat that's been very, very conspicuous for the last couple of episodes. Uo finally asks about it, so we can finally figure out what's going on with the hat. So Tohru says that when she was in elementary school, she was bullied by boys often, and the boys chased her to a place where she didn't know where she was, and she didn't know how to find her way home. And she started to cry, Then she saw a boy standing across the street from her wearing the hat. And the boy's face is like very conspicuously like hashed out, like we're not supposed to know who it is. He looked at her for a long time and then ran off. And she doesn't know why, but she followed him. And even when she like fell or almost lost sight of him, he always waited, but he stayed just out of reach from her and eventually led her home. And the final scene of this like memory, he's placing the hat on her head outside of her apartment. And then we cut back to the present. So now we finally know who the hat is or what's up with the hat. We cut back to the present, and Uo and Hana are saying that it's a wonderful memory and it would be even better if they met again in the future and fell in love. Hey, it's a small world, so she still might, they say. Tohru says that if they do meet again, she'd like to thank him. But he may have forgotten about it, though, by now, because it was quite a long time ago. We see Kyo shown in the hallway, and Yuki is, like, in his room with stuff all over the floor. Did you notice how messy his room is?
Yeah.
So good.
Just die.
It's in character. And he's, like, eating a little, like, snack in bed, too, while he's reading.
But he's just going to toss that wrapper on the floor, too.
Definitely. Looking back, Tohru thinks maybe that boy was her first love. I think she doesn't say anything. I'm pretty sure this is her internal monologue. Uo says Tohru's had it rough, huh? And Tohru tells them how grateful she is for her mother, to have the Sohmas to live with, and to have wonderful friends who mean so much to her. Uo thinks about what Yuki and Kyo said earlier and says to Hana that they know what kind of person she is, always appreciating what she has in the moment. And they all fall asleep together, holding hands, saying how incomparable and wonderful their friendship is. Ugh, barf. I mean, just kidding. It's wonderful and magical.
Friendship is magic.
Friendship is the best thing ever. Don't you agree? They do have a good friendship. Anyway, the next morning, we transition with toast popping up, which is probably one of the greatest transitions of all time. And Kyo is walking around drinking milk out of the carton like a total heathen. I wonder if I made that joke.
You said it exactly in the manga.
Because it's true. I want to make sure that everybody who's listening to the anime-only episodes has the same experience of my jokes as the manga episodes. Also, it's true. He's a heathen. Anyway, he's walking around. His cats don't drink milk out of the carton. They don't have thumbs to carry the carton.
They would if they could. You know they would.
They would knock it over for their amusement, not even to drink it. The next morning, we see him walking around drinking milk out of the carton. And Yuki sasses him and then kicks him, getting milk everywhere, and then says that he should go to the store to buy more milk for all of them, which is really funny. Cat and a rat, or like a cat and a rat. Everyone hears. Tohru and Yuki and Kyo hear, and then they panic. But of course it's Hana again, just like the situation with the dog. She says that they're like that cartoon rat and that cartoon cat and how they fight and whatnot. Yuki and Kyo forgot that they were here, of course. But Hana and Uo say that Hana says that it seems like it's a good household for Tohru, but if it becomes bad, Hana will do things to them. Yes, many things. And then Hana and Uo sit down and say that they're counting on Kyo and Yuki to look after Tohru. They have breakfast, or they sit down to have breakfast, and they say that they'll be back. And Yuki and Kyo are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And Tohru then protests to both of them, and it's like, but they're good people. And of course, Tohru will be careful with you-know-what. So they decide that it's okay. The phone rings, interrupting them, and Tohru goes to pick it up. And it turns out that it's Hatori, the man who we met earlier at the school, who left a wake of blushing girls behind him with his suit and his powers, his doctor powers. We see him calling from a cell phone from another location, and he wants to talk to Tohru, and he wants her to come to the main house on her next day off and not to tell anyone about it. Tohru panics, of course, because of what Yuki told her. And Hatori says that, he kind of leans back, and looking at the photo on his desk, he says that he trusts that she will know what will happen if she doesn't show up, and she might even get to meet Akito on her visit. Then we cut to the credits, and that's it for episode 6. Hooray. I think. So ominous tidings at the end. Is it just me, or is Hatori's voice deeper? Like, is his voice actor... maybe it's the same voice actor in the dub, but I think in the...
I honestly don't remember his original dub voice.
I don't either. It certainly seems deeper to me. I don't know. I was like, wow, it was a deep voice. It certainly, stands out for being really deep, I guess, regardless of if deeper or not.
Yeah, we talked about how it's, combining a couple different chapters and stuff again.
Yeah.
They also made a change in how Hatori invites / commands
Yeah.
Tohru to come to the main house.
Yes.
I guess they kind of split that up too by putting the Luo and Hana chapter in between, because in the manga he like calls her to the office of the school while he's still there to tell her to come there. And this one he calls like I guess it was later that night. Or was it? No, it's the next morning.
It's the next morning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He thought about it overnight this time.
Yeah. Maybe he forgot about it.
Shit.
I'll call in the morning. It'll seem like I meant to do it.
I feel like Shigure was conspicuously absent in the morning. Like, is he still at the main house? It's hard to tell.
Could be.
Maybe Hatori was like, I'll call when Shigure's not there too, so that she comes alone or whatever. It was all part of his scheme.
It's like she's the only one who's going to answer the phone except for Shigure.
And like that's questionable based on I think Shigure's behavior. Yeah, she's the responsible one. She's the only responsible adult there.
Yeah. She's the chaperone.
Basically. Yeah, I thought it was interesting how they switched it up and like combined all those things. So it's also interesting that they like you have Hana and Uo kind of like toward the beginning of the episode. They're like, seems like something's going on with Tohru and Yuki and Kyo. And then like part way through they're like, what's going on with you and Yuki? And then she's like, I'm living with them. I mean, and then they like then at the end they kind of like are like, everything's fine. This is a good place for Tohru. So like they have this also that connection that's running through the episode.
Yeah, I kind of like that because like in the manga there's just like all you see is like a little flashback where they're like, hey, what's going on? We're gonna come over. But in this one you see them kind of like notice like these three have become close. What's the deal?
Yeah.
And then asking her about it. So
I think I kind of said when we talked about this before that Takaya will put like a foreshadowing thing like in the same chapter or like right before. Like it's always very, very close together. And in this case, they kind of sprinkled it through the episode instead of it being like immediately they're like, what's going on with you? Now we're coming over. Like it was like, it was built up, as you said.
Yeah. And I think it kind of, like, I think they kept it from feeling like crammed by putting the two stuff together because they had like half of the festival stuff in an earlier episode.
Yeah, exactly. But then
you could just have the festival itself and then the Hana stuff.
Yeah, like so basically I guess in the manga it's like all the festival stuff happens at once, so they're planning it, then it happens. And then all the stuff with like Hana Nuo coming over happens at the same time, all in one chapter. And it's nice that it's broken up. Like it's nice that we saw Momiji before in the office building. Like in the chapter in the manga, which I don't think we talked about before, it's like Momiji shows up and then like
I think like Momiji shows up and then the end of that chapter has him like with the flyer talking to Hatori, and then the next chapter is the culture festival.
Exactly. So like it's all right sequentially happening. Whereas in this case it was broken up a little bit, so things got teased earlier, which was nice.
Yeah, I think it makes it feel like more like less like separate individual events happening.
And I think the choice to put Hatori calling at the end too like makes it into a cliffhanger. Which is nice too. So
so it keeps that kind of aspect from that kind of ooh, what's going to happen. She goes over from the manga.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's also broken up where it's like she goes to school, like you said, he asks her at school, and then like a bunch of other stuff happens in the chapter. In this case, he asks her right at the end, so there's like a very clear cliffhanger for the next episode, which is nice. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It feels very different, like the setting for Kito's room, like that scene with Akito. I definitely didn't look it up again, but it feels very I don't know. I think like what happens is Toru's friends come over during the day. So I think Shigure visits during the day in the manga, and therefore the light feel is very different. In this case it's like at night, it's really, really dark. We got that like really intense lighting that lets us see Shigure's like creepy face and has Akito being kind of in shadow and separated. Yeah, it was interesting. I liked that. It made it a little more spooky.
It was a good atmosphere, and I liked it. And the lighting was really nice, like just as a visual effect.
Yeah, visually on his face, it was nice. And then also like there's not a lot of detail in Akito's room in that scene, I don't think. But they had that whole like shot of the like panel with that's like painted with like the tigers and junk. Yeah, which was nice and also kind of like semi-threatening, which I think added to the atmosphere.
Yeah. Like you're saying, I think I do remember it just being like kind of, it's mostly tight on their faces, so you don't see a lot of the room itself in the manga.
You could tell Akito's kind of like in the same position, like sitting on the porch thing, and then you just see like Shigure's body or like his chest up or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's kind of smooshed in, so
Yeah.
we don't get those
Because I think
effects.
they're still like hiding Akido at that point in the manga, which is
Maybe, yeah.
so you're only seeing like bits of his face from like shadowed by his hair and stuff.
I mean, I think we're still only seeing like Akito's hair in this
Yeah,
chapter, so or this
yeah, you're not
episode.
really seeing like full body
No,
Akido's, even though you're not really clearly seeing his face yet.
yeah. So that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
I have some minor spoilers, but I don't have any other non-spoilers.
No.
Okay, so thank you all for listening. Next time, we're going to talk about episode 7, and we're going to talk about a couple spoiler things after this music. So we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We're back to talk about spoilers. So, I mean, I guess like a spoiler is that we're going to Hatori's house next time, which is going to be nice and real sad, I'm sure. Can't wait to see whatever heart-wrenching animation and voices we get this time.
Yep. Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they do it with this anime, since they kind of like combine the 2 Hatori chapters in the first anime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the combined with Tohru going to the house and hearing about the story from Momiji, and then like the chapter after New Year's, which is a couple chapters later. Yeah, I forget exactly.
So I'll be interested to see what choices they make for it this time.
Yeah, I feel like that chapter is definitely going to be light unless you combine stuff, because it's like she goes there and walks through the gate and it's scary, and then they talk. There's a lot of talking, and then like Shigure shows up and then they see Akido and they leave. So like you would, based on like what we've seen so far of how they combine stuff, I think they're definitely going to have to add something. So the question is, what will it be?
Yeah, unless they want to like expand like Momiji walking her through the main house or something.
They could add stuff about Momiji, because we just met Momiji too. You never know.
Yeah, maybe some Momiji foreshadowing.
Maybe. And then of course we have hat spoilers.
Yeah.
I guess so. Of course, all of the dramatic alluding to the hat for like many episodes has we finally saw some in this episode, and it's an allusion to later as well.
I think I took a note. You can kind of tell who it is in this version of it
because of the way the dialogue is, or something.
No, the hair.
Oh,
there's this like when the boy in the flashback like goes around one of the corners, you can kind of see his hair, and I think you can kind of tell whose it is. Yeah, just kind of the style of it.
Yeah, they have similar kind of like little kid hair, but
it's got like the Yuki's hair danglies. It's trying to be big. But...
okay. Let me. Well, we're in spoilers. We can say.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just play it.
What's your house spoiler?
I don't know. It's supposed to be spoilers for the anime, but I don't feel like you could spoil the anime without having read the manga. So like, what, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, yeah. It does have his hair danglies. You're right. I don't know, his like angled bob bangs things. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, Kyo definitely doesn't have that. It's funny how Yuki has the same haircut from when he was like 6 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I like rewound that to see if I think so, because it happens fast. But
I like how like
if you know who it is, you're like, oh, you can kind of tell what that's. So like if this is coming out without like the manga, you'd get people like freeze framing it and analyzing it.
Probably, yeah. I think it's interesting how conspicuous the face is covered. It's like you are clearly not meant to think about this face. It's like crossed out.
Yeah.
Aggressively. Which I don't know is the way that I would choose to represent it, but I get why they want to do it that way. It's like, and I don't remember anything about his face. I remember that he was wearing this hat and these shoes and this these other things, though. Yeah, it's like, because I think in the manga it's just kind of shaded, but in this case it has lines through it.
Yeah, and like just the shape of the panels.
Yeah, I guess it'd be hard to show him. I mean, like, I guess you could structure it in a way that he's like running, but it might be really awkward. Like the street might have to be angled really awkwardly to cut off his head, but not hers and stuff like that. So, yeah, I could see that being tricky to animate, but I do think it's like kind of aggressive. The amount the face is crossed out is aggressive.
Yeah.
So much so that you could maybe, if you don't just like accept her dialogue for what it is, you could maybe interpret it in a different way. Like, I don't know. Like, she has mixed feelings for him because his face is crossed out. Like, you know when you cross someone's face out of a photo or something? Like, kind of reminds me of that. But anyway, of course we know why it's like that.
Yeah.
So I loved Yuki's room. That's not a spoiler.
Yeah.
But it is funny.
It's
More accurate.
very Yuki. Yeah.
Do you have any other spoilers? I'm trying to think if there's something else.
Yeah, that's my only note.
Okay. There's not a lot of spoilers. There wasn't a super spoilery episode, but
No.
In that case, you can thank you all for listening, of course. I don't remember if I said that before, but I hope I did. You can find us on all the Stay Together podcast places, and we'll see you next time to talk about episode 7.
Bye.
Bye.